In the rush of the city, a poor girl's simple scream on a bus altered destinies. Her brave act saved lives, including that of a powerful man. Days later, she showed up asking for help for her mother, and there was the millionaire. If you were touched by this beautiful story of resilience and love, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. Continuing. In the rush hour chaos of downtown Boston, where the cacophony of car horns and hurried footsteps formed the city's heartbeat, Ethan Reed sat uncomfortably on a crowded bus. The pristine lines of his tailored charcoal suit contrasted sharply with the worn-out seats. His polished Italian leather shoes reflected the harsh fluorescent lights overhead. This wasn't his world. Ethan checked his watch, an understated Patek Philippe that cost more than what most passengers earned in a year. He sighed, irritated by the circumstances that had forced him into this situation. His Tesla had broken down that morning, leaving him no choice but to experience public transportation for the first time in over a decade. 30 minutes, he muttered under his breath, calculating how much revenue his company might lose with every minute he spent trapped in this metal tube instead of attending his board meeting. At 42, Ethan had built Reed Innovations into one of the East Coast's most successful tech companies. Time, for him, was measured in dollars and cents. The bus filled to capacity at the next stop. Bodies pressed against each other as the hydraulic doors closed with a hiss. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, keeping his briefcase protectively on his lap. His mind drifted to the quarterly reports waiting on his desk, the acquisition deal that needed finalizing, the "Get out of the bus! Everyone get out now!" The shrill voice cut through Ethan's thoughts like a knife. His head snapped up to see a small figure standing near the front doors. A girl no older than 10 with wild eyes and panic etched across her face. "Please, everyone needs to get off right now." Some passengers looked annoyed, others concerned. Most simply ignored her, assuming she was playing a prank or suffering from some kind of episode. The bus driver turned in his seat, his face a mixture of confusion and irritation. "Young lady, sit down or I'll have to—" "Please!" The desperation in her voice intensified. "Something bad is going to happen." Ethan watched the scene unfold with detached curiosity. The girl wasn't throwing a tantrum. There was something different in her demeanor, something urgent and genuine that didn't match typical childhood attention-seeking behavior. People began to stir. An elderly woman near the front stood shakily and made her way toward the door. A few others followed, muttering about delays and inconvenience. Most remained seated. The girl's eyes darted frantically around the bus until they locked with Ethan's. In that moment, something passed between them, something Ethan couldn't explain. Her gaze, despite her youth, carried a weight, and knowing that seemed impossible for a child, he felt a chill run down his spine. "Sir, please," she said, her voice suddenly lower but somehow more intense as she addressed him directly across the crowded space. "You need to get off this bus right now." Ethan found himself standing before he'd made a conscious decision to move. His body responded to some primal instinct that overrode his logical mind. As he stepped into the aisle, others began to follow, perhaps seeing that even the well-dressed businessman was taking the warning seriously. The bus driver, overwhelmed by the sudden exodus, opened the doors. "Everyone calm down. There's nothing wrong with—" Ethan felt the girl's small hand grab his sleeve as he passed her. "Hurry," she whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Once on the sidewalk, Ethan turned back, an inexplicable urge to ensure the girl had also exited. She was the last one out, practically jumping the final steps to the pavement. 37 seconds later, a deafening explosion ripped through the morning air. The bus's electrical system had catastrophically failed, igniting the fuel tank. Glass and metal showered the street as passengers who had heeded the warning threw themselves to the ground, covering their heads. The acrid smell of smoke and burning rubber filled Ethan's nostrils as he picked himself up from the sidewalk. His ears rang painfully. Around him, people were shouting, some crying, others on their phones, presumably calling emergency services. The bus that would have carried him to his meeting was now engulfed in flames. In the chaos that followed, the arrival of fire trucks, police cars, and ambulances with their screaming sirens, Ethan searched for the girl. He needed to understand how she had known, how she had saved them all. But she was nowhere to be found. For days afterward, Ethan couldn't shake the memory of those eyes, intelligent, fearful, and somehow familiar. They haunted his dreams and interrupted his thoughts. During important meetings, his executive assistant, Jessica, noticed his distraction. "Mr. Reed, are you feeling all right?" she asked after he missed a crucial point during a conference call for the third time. "You haven't been yourself since the incident." "I'm fine," he replied curtly, straightening his tie. "Just reschedule the Miller meeting for tomorrow. And get me the latest market analysis on our competitors." But he wasn't fine. For the first time in years, something had penetrated the carefully constructed wall that separated Ethan Reed from genuine human connection. The girl's warning had saved his life, and he couldn't understand why that act of altruism had affected him so deeply. He tried to find information about her. Had any news outlets interviewed the heroic young girl who had prevented a tragedy? But there was nothing. It was as if she had appeared from nowhere, and then vanished just as mysteriously. A week after the explosion, Ethan decided to take a different route home from work. His new Tesla had been delivered, but something compelled him to walk for while before calling his driver. The evening air was crisp with early autumn, and the familiar streets of Boston felt somehow different as he wandered without purpose. He found himself in an area he rarely visited, more residential, less polished than his usual haunts. Children played in small front yards while parents chatted on porches. It was a slice of normal life that had always existed parallel to his, but which he had managed to avoid in his pursuit of success. As he turned a corner, preparing to call, his driver, a commotion up ahead, caught his attention. A small figure was darting between cars, waving arms frantically, trying to flag down anyone who would stop. "Help! Please! Someone help!" Ethan froze. He recognized that voice instantly. Was her, the girl from the bus. Her hair was disheveled, her face streaked with tears. When she spotted him standing there, her eyes widened in recognition. Please, you have to help me." She ran toward him, breathless and desperate. "My mom, she collapsed. She's not breathing right. Our phone is disconnected." Ethan didn't hesitate this time. "Where is she?" he asked, already pulling out his phone. "Our apartment. It's close. Please, hurry." He followed as she ran ahead, leading him down 2 blocks and up the stairs of a worn apartment building. The stark contrast between this neighborhood and his penthouse in Back Bay wasn't lost on him. These were the invisible people who kept the city running, the ones he passed daily without truly seeing. The girl fumbled with a key and pushed open the door to a small apartment. "Mom!" she called out, rushing inside. "I brought help." Ethan stepped in behind her and froze. On a faded couch lay an unconscious woman, her face ashen, her breathing shallow and labored. But it wasn't her condition that stopped him cold. It was her face, a face he knew, a face he had spent years trying to forget. "Sarah," he whispered, the name escaping his lips like a prayer he never thought he'd utter again. The girl looked up at him, confusion momentarily replacing panic. "You know my mom?" But Ethan couldn't answer. He was already dialing 911, his voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside him, as past and present collided with devastating force. "Yes, I need an ambulance immediately," he said into the phone, giving the dispatcher the address while his eyes remained fixed on the woman who had once been the center of his world, Sarah Connor. The woman he had loved more fiercely than he thought possible, the woman who had disappeared from his life without explanation 12 years ago, leaving nothing but a hollow space he had filled with ambition and success. And beside her stood a girl who looked to be about 10 years old, with familiar eyes that had stared into his soul on a bus just 1 week earlier. The ambulance siren wailed through the Boston streets as Ethan sat beside the girl in the back of his Tesla. His driver, Michael, followed the emergency vehicle, closely navigating through traffic with practiced precision. The girl, he now knew her name was Lily, sat silently, her small hands clutching a worn backpack. "Massachusetts General is one of the best hospitals in the country," Ethan said, attempting to offer comfort. Your mom will receive excellent care there. Lily nodded but didn't look up. She's been sick for a while, she whispered. She tries to hide it from me, but I know. Ethan studied her profile, searching for Sarah's features in her face. The resemblance was undeniable. The same delicate nose, the same curve of the cheekbones. But there was something else there, too. Something hauntingly familiar that he couldn't quite place. How did you know? He asked abruptly. About the bus, I mean. How did you know something was going to happen? Lily's eyes met his, and that same inexplicable connection he'd felt before flickered between them. I just knew, she said simply. Sometimes I just feel things before they happen. Mom says I have good instincts. They arrived at the hospital to find Sarah already being assessed in the emergency department. Ethan's name opened doors that would have remained closed to most. The Reed family had donated millions to Mass General over the years. Within minutes, he was speaking with the attending physician, while Lily sat in a nearby waiting area. Ms. Connor is suffering from severe anemia and kidney dysfunction, Dr. Patel explained, her expression grave. We're running more tests, but her symptoms suggest an autoimmune condition that has gone untreated for some time. Has she been receiving any medical care? Ethan shook his head. I don't know. We haven't been in contact for years. Dr. Patel nodded, making a note on her tablet. Well, she's stable for now, but we need to identify the underlying cause. Does she have health insurance? Consider all expenses covered, Ethan replied without hesitation. Whatever she needs. When he returned to the waiting area, Lily had fallen asleep, her head resting awkwardly against the wall. Ethan sat down beside her, careful not to wake. In sleep, her face relaxed, the worry lines smoothed away. She looked even more like Sarah, the Sarah he had known 12 years ago when everything had seemed possible. His mind drifted back to that time. They had met during his final year at MIT. Sarah had been working at a local cafe frequented by students, her sharp wit and warm smile a beacon in the sea of academic pressure. Despite coming from completely different worlds, he, the son of a wealthy Boston family, she a scholarship student working multiple jobs to make ends meet, they had connected instantly. For 2 years, they had been inseparable. Sarah had been his anchor as he launched his first startup, working nights at the cafe and spending days helping him build his dream. They had talked about marriage, about a future together, and then, without warning, she had vanished. No explanation, no goodbye. Just a short note saying she couldn't be with him anymore. He had searched for her, of course, but after months of dead ends and unanswered questions, pride and hurt had hardened into resolve. He had channeled all his energy into building Reed, innovations turning it into a tech empire that now employed thousands. He had dated occasionally, but never allowed anyone close enough to hurt him again. And now here she was, back in his life through the most improbable of circumstances, fighting for her life in a hospital bed, and beside him sat a child who couldn't possibly be. Mr. Reed, a nurse appeared in the doorway. Miss Connor is awake and asking for her daughter. Lily stirred, instantly alert. Mom's awake. Can I see her? Of course, honey. She's been asking for you. Lily jumped up, then hesitated, turning to Ethan. Are you coming? The question caught him off guard. If you want me to. She nodded, reaching for his hand with the unself-conscious trust of a child. The simple gesture sent an unexpected jolt through him. When was the last time anyone had reached for him with such unguarded sincerity? Sarah was propped up in bed, an IV in her arm and monitors beeping steadily beside her. Her once vibrant features were drawn with exhaustion, her auburn hair dull against the white hospital pillow. But when she saw Lily, her face transformed, years falling away as she smiled. There's my brave girl, she said, voice weak but warm. Lily rushed to her side, carefully hugging her. Mom, I was so scared, but I found help just like you always told me to do in an emergency. Sarah stroked her daughter's hair, murmuring reassurances. Then her gaze lifted and locked with Ethan's. The monitors beside her bed registered a spike in her heart rate. Ethan, she whispered, her voice a mixture of disbelief and something else, fear. How did you— I ran into Lily on the street, he explained, remaining by the door. She was looking for help. Sarah's eyes darted between them, a complex emotion crossing her face. Lily, sweetheart, would you mind getting me some water? From the nurse's station? Once Lily had left the room, an uncomfortable silence descended. Ethan moved closer to the bed, his emotions a tangled mess of anger, concern, and lingering affection. You disappeared, he said finally, his voice carefully controlled. No explanation, nothing. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. I know. I'm sorry. 12 years, Sarah, 12 years without a word. It's complicated, Ethan, more than you know. He gestured toward the door where Lily had exited. She's 10, isn't she? The question hung in the air between them, loaded with implication. Sarah's hands twisted in the thin hospital blanket. Almost 11. The confirmation, even though he had already done the math, hit Ethan like a physical blow. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, his voice dropping to a whisper. Why would you keep my own child from me? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I tried to tell you. I swear I did. But things happened. There were complications. The door opened and Lily returned, with a plastic cup of water. The conversation halted abruptly. Ethan stepped back, struggling to maintain his composure as the reality of the situation crashed over him in waves. This child, this remarkable, intuitive girl who had saved his life, was his daughter. A daughter he hadn't known existed until this moment. The doctor says you need to rest, Mum, Lily said, placing the water on the bedside table. But she said you're going to be okay. Sarah reached for her daughter's hand. Thanks to you, my little hero. Ethan watched their interaction with new eyes, seeing the easy affection between them, the shorthand of gestures and expressions that spoke of years of being each other's whole world. Years he had missed. Lily, Sarah said hesitantly, Mr. Reed is an old friend of mine from before you were born. Lily looked between them, her intelligent eyes assessing. You never mentioned him before. No, I didn't, Sarah admitted, but he was very important to me once. A nurse entered the room, checking Sarah's vitals and adjusting her medication. Visiting hours are almost over, she informed them gently. Ms. Connor needs her rest. Where will you stay tonight? Ethan asked Lily, suddenly realizing the practical implications of the situation. Lily looked uncertain. Usually when Mom's sick, I stay with Uncle Mark, but he's away on one of his trips. Uncle Mark? Ethan questioned, looking to Sarah. My brother, Sarah explained, a shadow crossing her face. He stays with us sometimes. Something in her tone made Ethan uneasy. Lily can stay with me tonight, he offered, surprising himself. My apartment has plenty of room, and it's close to the hospital. Sarah's expression turned guarded. I don't think that's— Please, Mum, Lily interrupted. I want to stay close to you, and Mr. Reed saved you today. He called the ambulance and everything. Sarah looked torn, her eyes meeting Ethan's in a silent plea he couldn't quite interpret. I'll bring her first thing in the morning, he promised. You have my word. After a moment of hesitation, Sarah nodded slowly. Okay, she agreed, her voice tight with unspoken emotion. But Lily, listen to me. If you need anything at all, you call me on Mr. Reed's phone, understand? Lily nodded solemnly, then leaned in to kiss her mother's cheek. I'll be fine, Mom. I promise. As they left the hospital room, Ethan felt Sarah's eyes on his back, heavy with the weight of secrets yet to be revealed. Outside, the Boston night was cool and clear, stars barely visible above the city lights. Ethan helped Lily into his waiting car, his mind reeling with the day's revelations. Where do you live, Mr. Reed? Lily asked, as the car pulled away from the hospital. Back Bay, he replied automatically. And please, call me Ethan. Lily nodded, looking out the window at the passing city. You live in one of those fancy buildings, don't you? The ones with doormen and elevators. I do, he admitted, suddenly seeing his life through her eyes, the privilege he took for granted thrown into sharp relief. Mom always says that fancy things aren't as important as people who care about you, she said matter-of-factly. That's why even though our apartment is small, it's still a good home. Ethan felt something twist in his chest, shame, perhaps, or recognition of a truth he had long ignored in his pursuit of success. "Your mom," he said carefully, "is a very wise woman." Ethan's penthouse apartment occupied the top floor of one of Boston's most exclusive residential buildings. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city skyline and the Charles River beyond. As the elevator doors opened directly into his foyer, he watched Lily's expression shift from exhaustion to wonder. "Wow," she breathed, taking tentative steps into the vast open space. "Your apartment is bigger than our whole building." The observation, delivered without judgment, made Ethan suddenly self-conscious of his wealth in a way board meetings and charity galas never had. He saw his home through new eyes, the minimalist furniture chosen by an interior designer, the expensive art pieces he barely noticed anymore, the kitchen with professional-grade appliances he rarely used. "Let me show you where you'll sleep," he said, leading her down a hallway to one of the guest rooms. "The bathroom is through that door. There are new toothbrushes in the drawer." Lily placed her backpack carefully on the pristine white duvet. "Thank you," she said politely, though she looked oddly small and out of place amid the sleek contemporary furnishings. "Are you hungry?" Ethan asked, realizing he hadn't thought about food since leaving the office hours earlier. Lily nodded, her earlier reserve beginning to fade. "Starving. Mom says I'm always hungry because I'm growing." "Let's see what we can find," Ethan replied, though he already knew his refrigerator contained little more than bottled water and protein shakes. He rarely ate at home, preferring the efficiency of restaurant meals or food delivered to his office. In the kitchen, he opened cabinets at random, finding expensive coffee beans and gourmet crackers, but nothing substantial. Lily watched him, with curious eyes perched on a bar stool at the island. "Don't you cook?" she asked. "Not really," Ethan admitted. "I usually eat out or order in." "Mom says cooking is like a science experiment you can eat," Lily informed him seriously. "She taught me how to make spaghetti and grilled cheese." Ethan smiled despite himself. "Well, I'm afraid science was never my best subject. How about I order us a pizza?" 20 minutes later, they sat at the dining table that had never been used for a family meal, sharing a large pepperoni pizza and cans of soda. Ethan had loosened his tie and rolled up his shirt sleeves, while Lily had kicked off her shoes and tucked her feet beneath her on the chair. "Can I ask you a question?" Lily said between bites. "Of course." "How do you know my mom exactly?" "She never talks about her life before me." Ethan carefully placed his slice back on his plate, buying time. "We were very close friends, a long time ago." "Before I was born?" "Yes." Lily seemed to consider this information carefully. "Were you in love with her?" The directness of the question caught him off guard. "We were young," he hedged. "But yes, I cared for your mother very much. What happened? Why didn't you stay friends?" Ethan sighed, unsure how much to share. Sometimes adults lose touch with each other. Life takes them in different directions. Lily's expression said she found this explanation lacking, but she didn't press further. Instead, she changed the subject. "Did you know I saved your life?" "On the bus?" "Yes, I've been wondering about that. How did you know there was danger?" She shrugged, picking at the cheese on her pizza. "I just felt it, like a bad feeling in my stomach that got stronger and stronger until I had to do something." She looked up, meeting his eyes. "Mom says I have good intuition, that I should trust my gut." "Your mom is right," Ethan said quietly. "That's an important skill." "Do you have it too?" she asked. "The feeling?" The question struck something, deep inside him. As a child, he had often had premonitions, moments of knowing that had both frightened and fascinated him. His parents had discouraged what they called flights of fancy, steering him toward logic and rational thinking. Over time, he had learned to ignore those instincts, to doubt them when they arose. "I used to," he admitted, "when I was younger." Lily nodded sagely. "Maybe that's why I have it. Maybe I got it from you." The simple statement hung in the air between them, loaded with implications neither was ready to address. Ethan cleared his throat, standing to clear their plates. "It's getting late. You should probably get ready for bed." After showing Lily how to use the shower and lending her one of his t-shirts to sleep in, which hung to her knees like a nightgown, Ethan found himself alone in his living room, a glass of scotch in hand, staring out at the city lights. The reality of the situation was beginning to sink in. He had a daughter, a child who had been growing, learning, developing her own personality for almost 11 years without his knowledge or input. The thought made him dizzy with loss and anger. Anger at Sarah for keeping this secret, anger at himself for not searching harder when she disappeared, anger at the universe for the cruel twist of fate that had kept him from his child. And yet, beneath the anger was something else, a tentative spark of wonder. Lily was extraordinary, perceptive, brave, with an innate kindness that shone through every interaction. She had saved lives on that bus, including his own. She had run through the streets seeking help for her mother. She faced this strange situation with a resilience that humbled him. His phone buzzed with an incoming text. It was Jessica, his assistant, reminding him about tomorrow's board meeting. The message jolted him back to reality, to the empire he had built, the responsibilities that demanded his attention, the life he had constructed that had no space carved out for fatherhood. But even as he typed a response confirming his attendance, he knew everything had changed. The carefully ordered world he had created was shifting beneath his feet, rearranging itself around this new central fact. He was Lily's father. After checking that Lily was asleep, Ethan retreated to his home office and opened his laptop. If he was going to face this situation, he needed information. He began by searching for Sarah Connor in Boston's public records, then expanded to social media platforms and employment databases. The digital footprint he found was minimal: a part-time position at a local bookstore, a basic health insurance policy, rental agreements for a succession of modest apartments. No social media presence to speak of. It was as if she had deliberately kept herself off the grid. Then he searched for Mark Connor, Sarah's brother. Here, the results were more substantial, though troubling. Several minor arrests for disorderly conduct, a restraining order filed by a former girlfriend, employment history that showed a pattern of short-term jobs and long gaps, credit reports that revealed significant debt. Ethan leaned back in his chair, processing this information. The picture it painted was concerning. Sarah struggling to make ends meet while caring for Lily, possibly with an unstable brother in the mix. But it still didn't explain why she had disappeared from his life without explanation, or why she had kept Lily's existence from him. A soft sound at the doorway made him look up. Lily stood there, drowning in his borrowed t-shirt, her hair tousled. From sleep. "I had a bad dream," she said simply. Ethan closed his laptop. "Do you want to talk about it?" She shook her head, then asked, "Can I have some water?" He led her to the kitchen, filling a glass from the filtered tap. As she drank, he noticed how the overhead lights caught the auburn highlights in her hair, so like Sarah's, yet with a texture that reminded him of his own mother's. "Better?" he asked when she finished. She nodded, but made no move to return to bed. Instead, she studied him with those uncannily perceptive eyes. "You look sad," she observed. The comment, delivered with such straightforward concern, caught him off guard. When was the last time anyone had asked about his feelings rather than his opinions or decisions? "I'm just thinking about a lot of things," he replied honestly. "About Mom." "Yes, and about you." She considered this. "Are you going to help us? Mom tries to hide it, but I know we don't have much money. That's why she works all the time, even when she's tired." The question was delivered without self-pity, just a child's pragmatic assessment of her situation. It pierced straight through Ethan's defenses. "Yes, Lily, I'm going to help you both." She nodded, accepting his promise at face value. "Good. Mum deserves someone to help her for a change." The simple statement contained volumes. "Has your Uncle Mark not been helpful?" Ethan asked carefully. Lily's expression clouded. "Uncle Mark says he helps, but he mostly takes things, money mostly, and he makes Mum cry when he thinks I can't hear." Ethan felt a surge of protective anger. Does he ever hurt you?" "Or your mum?" "Not me," Lily said. He's nice to me sometimes, brings me presents, but he makes Mum sad. She's different when he's around. Quieter. The implications of her words settled heavily in Ethan's chest. He'd need to tread carefully here, but he was already formulating plans to ensure both Lily and Sarah were protected. "Thank you for telling me," he said gently. "Now, think you can get back to sleep?" She hesitated. "Your apartment makes weird. Noises different from our building?" Ethan smiled. "It's just the heating system and the wind-up this high, nothing to worry about." Still, she looked uncertain. Ethan remembered his own childhood fears of the dark, the comfort of his mother, sitting beside his bed until he fell asleep. "Would it help if I sat with you for a while?" Lily nodded, relief evident in her expression. Ethan followed her back to the guest room, pulling up a chair beside the bed as she climbed in and pulled the covers up to her chin. "When I can't sleep, Mom tells me stories," she offered. "I'm afraid I don't know many stories," Ethan admitted. "That's okay. You can tell me about when you were friends with Mom instead." The request was innocent, but Ethan found himself momentarily at a loss. How to describe those years to her child? How to capture the whirlwind of first love, the shared dreams, the deep connection he had felt with Sarah? "Your mom was studying literature when we met," he began carefully. "She wanted to be a teacher. She loved books, always had one with her, even at work. She was smart and funny and kind. She helped me start my first company, stayed up late helping me with presentations, believed in me when no one else did." Lily listened intently, hunger for information about her mother's past evident in her expression. "Did she laugh a lot?" "She doesn't laugh much now." The observation stung. "Yes," Ethan said softly, "she had the most beautiful laugh. She found joy in small things, a perfect cup of coffee, a sunset, a good conversation." "What else?" Lily prompted as her eyelids began to grow heavy. "She was brave," Ethan continued, memories flooding back. "Braver than me in many ways. She stood up for what she believed in, never backed down from a challenge, and loyal, fiercely loyal to the people she cared about." Lily's eyes drifted closed, but Ethan continued speaking, now as much for himself as for her. "She changed me, made me see the world differently. Before her, I was just focused on success, on proving myself. She taught me that connections with people matter more than achievements." He fell silent, realizing with a pang that somewhere along the way after losing Sarah, he had forgotten that lesson. He had retreated into the safe, controlled world of business, where emotions could be managed and outcomes predicted. He had built an empire but allowed his heart to atrophy. Lily's breathing had deepened into the rhythm of sleep. Ethan watched her for a moment, this child who was part Sarah, part himself, yet entirely her own person. Then he quietly left the room, leaving the door slightly ajar in case she woke again. Back in his office, he made a decision. Tomorrow, after the board meeting, he would have his legal team begin preparations. Whatever happened next, he would ensure that Lily and Sarah were provided for, and he would get answers. Not just about why Sarah had left, but why she had kept his daughter from him for all these years. As he finally prepared for bed in the early hours of the morning, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I heard Sarah's in the hospital. I'm coming home tomorrow. Tell her to have my key and my money ready. Mark." Ethan stared at the message, a cold anger settling in his chest. Whoever this Mark was, whatever role he had played in Sarah and Lily's lives, one thing was becoming clear. The mystery of why Sarah had vanished from his life 12 years ago was more complicated than he had imagined, and he was determined to uncover the truth, no matter what it cost him. Morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ethan's penthouse, casting long shadows across the polished hardwood floors. He stood in the kitchen, phone pressed to his ear, voice lowered to avoid waking Lily. "Jessica, I need you to reschedule the board meeting," he instructed his assistant. "Family emergency, and call Alan in legal. I need him to prepare some documents. I'll brief him later today." He listened to her surprised response, then added, "No, everything's fine. Just something unexpected I need to handle personally. I'll be in touch." As he ended the call, he heard the soft pad of footsteps. Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway, her hair rumpled from sleep, still swimming in his borrowed t-shirt. "Good morning," Ethan said, surprised by how natural it felt to have her there. "Did you sleep okay after the bad dream?" She nodded, rubbing her eyes. "Your apartment is really quiet. No sirens or people yelling." The casual observation was another reminder of the vastly different worlds they inhabited. "Hungry?" he asked. "I'm afraid I don't have much for breakfast, but we can stop somewhere on the way to the hospital." "Can we get pancakes?" Lily asked, suddenly animated. "Mom only lets me have them on special days." "I think that can be arranged," Ethan replied, with a smile. "Why don't you get dressed and we'll head out?" While Lily changed back into her clothes from the previous day, Ethan checked his messages. There was nothing more from Mark Connor, but several urgent emails from work that would normally have commanded his immediate attention. Today, they seemed distant, almost trivial compared to the situation at hand. 30 minutes later, they sat in a booth at a diner, not far from Massachusetts General Hospital. Lily attacked a stack of blueberry pancakes with enthusiasm, while Ethan nursed a cup of coffee, watching her with a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. "You're staring," she observed between bites. "Sorry," Ethan said, caught off guard by her directness. "I was just thinking." "About what?" "About how much has changed in the last 24 hours. Lily considered this as she chased a blueberry around her plate with her fork. "For me too," she said finally. "Yesterday I was just worried about Mom being sick again, and now I'm eating pancakes with you in a fancy restaurant." "Do you consider this fancy?" Ethan asked, glancing around at the modest diner with its worn vinyl booths and laminated menus. "Fancier than where we usually eat," she replied with a shrug. "Mom makes pancakes at home when we can afford the ingredients." Each of these small revelations about their life cut Ethan deeply. He had built a fortune while Sarah and Lily, his daughter, had struggled for basics. "Lily," he began carefully, "how much has your mum told you about your father?" She put down her fork, suddenly serious. "Not much. She said he was smart and kind, but that he couldn't be part of our lives. I asked her once if he was a bad person, but she said no, that sometimes good people just can't be together." "And how do you feel about that?" Lily shrugged, but the casual gesture couldn't mask the emotion behind her words. "I used to make up stories about him, that he was a secret agent or an astronaut, or that he was looking for us but couldn't find us." She traced patterns in the syrup on her plate. "Some kids at school make fun of me because I don't have a dad. Jimmy Peters said I probably don't have one because nobody wanted me." Ethan felt a surge of protective anger. "That's not true at all, Lily." "I know," she said simply. "Mom always says I'm the best thing that ever happened to her, but sometimes I still wonder what he's like, my real dad. If I look like him. If he even knows I exist." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning neither was ready to address directly. Ethan's throat tightened. "I'm sure if he knew about you, he would be incredibly proud," he managed finally. Lily looked up, studying his face with those eerily perceptive eyes. For a moment, Ethan thought she might ask the question directly, might make the connection. Instead, she said, "We should go see Mom. She gets worried when she's alone for too long." At the hospital, they found Sarah sitting up in bed, her color marginally better than the previous day. Her face lit up when Lily entered the room, but her expression became guarded when she spotted Ethan behind her. "Mom!" Lily rushed to the bedside. "Mr. Reed got me pancakes for breakfast, with extra blueberries." Sarah smiled, stroking her daughter's hair. "That was nice of him." Her eyes met Ethan's over Lily's head, a silent communication passing between them. "Lily," Ethan said gently, "why don't you see if the nurses have any books or games while I talk to your mum for a few minutes?" Lily looked between them, clearly sensing the tension. "Grown-up talk?" "Something like that," Ethan confirmed. Once Lily had left the room, the atmosphere changed instantly. Sarah's smile faded, replaced by a wary defensiveness. "Thank you for looking after her," she said stiffly. "I appreciate it." "She's an amazing child," Ethan replied, moving closer to the bed. "Brave, intuitive, kind. You've done a wonderful job raising her." Sarah's expression softened slightly. "She's everything. To me. She's my daughter, isn't she?" The words came out more bluntly than he'd intended, but there was no point in dancing around the truth anymore. Sarah closed her eyes briefly, then met his gaze directly. "Yes." Despite having already done the math, despite seeing his own features, reflected in Lily's face, the confirmation hit Ethan like a physical blow. He sank into the chair beside the bed, 1,000 questions competing for priority. "Why?" he asked simply. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you disappear?" Sarah's hands twisted in the hospital blanket. "It's complicated, Ethan." "I have time," he replied evenly. "I've rescheduled my entire day." She took a deep breath. "When I found out I was pregnant, I was terrified. We were so young, and you had just secured funding for your startup. Everything was happening for you, and I didn't want to be the reason your dreams got derailed." "That wasn't your decision to make," Ethan said, struggling to keep his voice level. "I had a right to know I was going to be a father." "I know that now," Sarah admitted, "but at the time, I was going to tell you. I had it all planned out. And then what?" "Mark intervened," she said, her voice hardening. "My brother never thought I was good enough for you. He said your family would never accept me, that they'd think I got pregnant to trap you, that they'd make sure you left me anyway." Ethan frowned. "My parents may have been surprised, but they wouldn't have—" "Mark showed me the letter, Ethan," Sarah interrupted. "The one from your mother, offering me money to disappear from your life." Ethan stared at her in disbelief. "What letter? My mother never—" "It had Reed family letterhead," Sarah continued. "It said they'd been watching our relationship with concern, that they had plans for you that didn't include distractions like me. It offered $50,000 for me to end things and never contact you again." Ethan's mind raced. His mother had been traditional, concerned with social standing, but this seemed beyond even her capabilities. "Sarah, I never knew about any letter, and my mother, whatever her faults, wouldn't have done something like that without my father finding out. He would have told me." Sarah's expression wavered between doubt and the beginning of understanding. "There were other things too. Mark said he ran into you at a bar, that you told him you were feeling trapped, that you were seeing someone else, a girl from your social circle your parents approved of." "None of that is true," Ethan said firmly. "I never spoke to Mark at a bar. I never saw anyone else while we were together. I loved you, Sarah." She looked away, blinking back tears. "There were also phone calls, your number but a woman's voice telling me to stop bothering you. Letters you supposedly wrote that arrived after I moved away, saying you were relieved. I was gone." The pieces were starting to fall into place, a horrifying picture emerging. "Sarah, look at me," Ethan said urgently. "I never called you. I never wrote those letters. After you disappeared, I searched for you for months. I hired a private investigator, but it was like you'd vanished into thin air." Sarah's face had gone pale. "Mark helped me move to Chicago," she said slowly. "He said it was best to make a clean break. He forwarded my mail, screened my calls. When I was 7 months pregnant, he brought me those letters, said you'd finally tracked down our new address. And you believed them? Believed I would just abandon you like that?" "The letters sounded like you," she whispered. "They referenced conversations we'd had, private jokes. And I was young and scared and alone except for Mark. He was the only family I had left after our parents passed." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, trying to process the magnitude of the deception. "Your brother systematically cut me out of your life, out of my daughter's life. Why? What could he possibly gain?" Sarah's expression hardened. "Control. Mark has always needed to control me. After our parents lost everything and took their lives, he appointed himself my protector. But his protection came with conditions. I had to need him, depend on him. When I met you, when I started building a life independent of him, he couldn't handle it." "And when you returned to Boston? Why didn't you try to contact me then?" "By then, Lily was 5, Sarah explained. You were in the news regularly, the tech wunderkind, Boston's most eligible bachelor. There were photos of you with models, actresses. You seemed happy. What right did I have to upend your life, to force fatherhood on you?" "Every right, Ethan," said fiercely. "She's my daughter." "I see that now," Sarah admitted, "but at the time it seemed kinder to stay away, and truthfully, I was afraid. Afraid you'd reject us, or worse, that you'd try to take Lily from me. Mark always said with your money and influence, you could easily get custody." Ethan shook his head, anger and grief battling within him. "I've missed 10 years of her life, Sarah. Her first words, first steps, all because of lies." Before Sarah could respond, the door opened and Lily returned, clutching a deck of playing cards. "The nurse gave me these," she announced. "She said we could play Go Fish." Ethan and Sarah exchanged a look, silently agreeing to pause their conversation. "That sounds great, sweetheart," Sarah said, forcing brightness into her voice. "Why don't you teach Ethan the rules?" As Lily dealt the cards with careful concentration, Ethan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the screen and felt his stomach tighten. A text from the same unknown number as before. "Just landed at Logan, be at Sarah's place by 6. She better have my money ready. And who the hell is the suit who answered her phone last night?" Ethan slipped the phone back into his pocket. His decision made. Whatever game Mark Connor was playing, it ended today. He would not allow this man to continue manipulating Sarah or to have any influence over Lily's life. "Ethan, it's your turn," Lily prompted, breaking into his thoughts. He looked at the child before him, his daughter, and felt a fierce protectiveness, unlike anything he'd experienced before. "Sorry," he said, focusing on the cards in his hand. "I got distracted thinking about what a lucky day this is going to be." Later, while Lily was engrossed in a conversation with Dr. Patel about how stethoscopes worked, Ethan pulled Sarah aside. "Mark is coming to your apartment at 6, he informed her quietly. "He's expecting you to have money for him." Sarah's face paled. "How do you know that?" "He texted your phone last night," I answered. She closed her eyes briefly. "This happens every few months. He disappears, then shows up demanding cash. Says it's repayment for all he's done for us." "Not anymore," Ethan said firmly. "I'm meeting him instead." "Ethan, no, you don't know what he's capable of. He has a temper, especially when he's been drinking." "I don't care," Ethan replied. "This ends today, Sarah. The manipulation, the control, all of it. I've already contacted my legal team. We're filing for a restraining order based on the text messages and what Lily told me about how he treats you." Sarah looked startled. "What did she say?" "That he makes you cry, that you're different when he's around, quieter, that he takes your money." Sarah's shoulders slumped. "She notices more than I thought." "Children always do," Ethan said gently. Then, more firmly, "I'm going to be part of Lily's life from now on, Sarah. I've missed 10 years. I won't miss another day. We need to tell her the truth." Fear flashed across Sarah's face. "Not yet, please. She's already dealing with so much with my illness. Let's give her time to adjust to you being in our lives first." Ethan wanted to argue but recognized the wisdom in her caution. "Fine, but soon she deserves to know." Sarah nodded reluctantly. "What about us?" she asked hesitantly. The question caught Ethan off guard. "I don't know," he admitted. "There's a lot of hurt, a lot of lost time. But Lily needs both of us. We'll figure out how to co-parent at the very least. And Mark? Leave Mark to me," Ethan said, his expression hardening. "I promise you this. He will never control either of you again." As he turned back to watch Lily chatting animatedly with the doctor, demonstrating a surprising knowledge of human anatomy for a child her age, Ethan felt something settle within him. The anger was still there, at Sarah for not trusting him, enough to see through the deception, at Mark for his callous manipulation, at himself for not searching harder, longer. But alongside the anger was something new, purpose. For years, he had channeled his energy into building his company, accumulating wealth and influence. Now all of that would serve a greater goal, protecting and nurturing the daughter he had just discovered, and perhaps rebuilding some version of the family that had been stolen from all of them. The road ahead would not be easy, There would be legal battles, emotional hurdles, and the delicate process of helping Lily understand her true parentage. But for the first time in 12 years, Ethan felt truly alive, the numbness that had encased his heart since Sarah's disappearance, finally beginning to thaw. His phone buzzed again. Jessica, his assistant, with questions about the postponed board meeting. Business matters that had seemed all-consuming just yesterday now felt remote, almost trivial. "Everything okay?" Lily asked, noticing his distraction. Ethan looked at her, this miraculous child who had somehow found him on that bus, who had perhaps saved his life precisely so they could discover each other. "Yes," he said with certainty, "everything is going to be okay now." The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Sarah's modest apartment as Ethan surveyed the space. It was small but meticulously kept, a testament to Sarah's effort to create a warm home with limited resources. Family photos lined the walls, most featuring Lily at various ages. Handmade artwork was proudly displayed on the refrigerator. Books were stacked neatly on every available surface, many with well-worn spines suggesting frequent reading. Ethan moved through the rooms, absorbing details of the life his daughter had lived without him. Lily's bedroom was painted a soft yellow, with a small desk covered in science projects and drawings. A bookshelf overflowed with titles ranging from children's classics to surprisingly advanced books on astronomy and biology. She loves science, Sarah had told him before he left the hospital. Especially anything about the stars or the human body. She's been talking about becoming a doctor since she was 6. The revelation had filled Ethan with both pride and sorrow. Pride in his daughter's intelligence and ambition, sorrow for all. The moments of discovery he had missed. Checking his watch, Ethan noted it was nearly 6. Mark would arrive soon. He had insisted Sarah and Lily remain at the hospital, despite Sarah's protests. "This is between Mark and me," he had told her, firmly. "You and Lily don't need to be anywhere near it." His phone rang. Alan Chen, his chief legal counsel. "I've prepared the restraining order application as you requested," Alan informed him. "But Ethan, are you sure about this? Filing against someone you've never met, based on text messages and second-hand accounts." "I'm sure," Ethan interrupted. "This man has been emotionally abusing Sarah for years, manipulating her, taking her money. And there's more to the story that I can't get into right now." "All right," Alan conceded. "I've also drawn up the preliminary documents regarding financial support for Ms. Connor and her daughter, as well as the framework for a potential custody arrangement." "Thank you. And the other matter?" "The private investigator is already compiling a comprehensive report on Mark Connor's activities over the past 12 years. If there's evidence of fraud, forgery, or other criminal activity, we'll find it." "Good. I want everything by tomorrow." After ending the call, Ethan positioned himself in the small living room, mentally preparing for the confrontation. Part of him, the rational, business-minded part, knew he should have brought security, should have met Mark in a public place. But another part, the part that had just discovered he'd been robbed of a decade with his child, wanted this confrontation to be personal. At precisely 6 o'clock, footsteps sounded in the hallway outside, followed by the rattle of keys in the lock. The door swung open to reveal a man in his late 40s with unkempt dark hair and the haggard look of someone who had lived hard. Despite the family resemblance to Sarah, there was something distinctly unpleasant in his expression, a hardness around the eyes, a permanent downward turn to his mouth. He froze in the doorway, clearly startled to find Ethan sitting calmly in his sister's apartment. "Who the hell are you?" Mark demanded, dropping a battered duffel bag on the floor. "Ethan Reed," he replied evenly, remaining seated. "I believe we have a lot to discuss, Mark." Recognition dawned on Mark's face, followed quickly by an unconvincing attempt at casual nonchalance. "Sarah's old boyfriend? What are you doing here?" "I think you know exactly why I'm here," Ethan said, his voice deceptively calm. "Sarah's in the hospital. Autoimmune condition that's gone untreated because she couldn't afford proper medical care. Interesting given how much money you've apparently been taking from her over the years." Mark's expression darkened. My relationship with my sister is none of your business. Where is she? And where's the kid?" "They're safe," Ethan replied. "And they're going to stay that way." Mark took a step forward, attempting intimidation. "Look, I don't know what Sarah's told you, but—" "She didn't have to tell me anything," Ethan cut in. "Your text messages were quite illuminating, as were Lily's observations about how you make her mother cry." Mark scoffed. "Kids exaggerate. I've been looking out for Sarah and that girl since day one. Where were you all this time, Mr. Big-Shot Tech Entrepreneur?" Ethan stood slowly, his calm demeanor belying the anger simmering beneath. "I was exactly where you wanted me to be, out of the picture. But we both know that wasn't my choice." A flicker of unease crossed Mark's face. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The fake letter from my mother," Ethan said, taking a step closer. "The lies about me seeing other women. The forged letters you showed Sarah after she moved to Chicago. Ring any bells?" Mark's expression shifted, calculation replacing denial. "Sarah's confused. She's always been emotional, prone to—" "Stop," Ethan commanded, his voice cutting like steel. "The game is over, Mark. I know everything. How you systematically isolated Sarah. How you intercepted our communications. How you fabricated evidence to convince her I didn't want her or my child." "You can't prove any of that," Mark retorted, though his confidence was visibly wavering. "Actually, I can," Ethan countered. "I have resources you can't imagine, Mark. Forensic document experts who can identify forgeries, digital specialists who can trace communications, and enough legal firepower to bury you for fraud, emotional abuse, and financial exploitation." Mark's face had gone pale. "You're bluffing." "Try me," Ethan challenged. "My legal team is already building the case, but here's the thing, I'm not primarily interested in seeing you pay legally, though that would be satisfying. What I want is simple. You are going to disappear from Sarah and Lily's lives permanently." "You can't do that," Mark protested. "Sarah's my sister. That kid is my niece." "The sister you've manipulated and exploited for over a decade," Ethan corrected. "The niece whose father you deliberately kept away from her. You don't get to claim family ties now, Mark. Not after what you've done." Mark's demeanor shifted, desperation replacing bravado. "Look, maybe I made some mistakes, but everything I did was to protect Sarah. Your world, your family, they would have crushed her." "That wasn't your decision to make," Ethan replied, unmoved. "You robbed me of my daughter's childhood. You robbed Sarah of the support she deserved. You robbed Lily of her father, all to maintain control over your sister." Mark seemed to deflate before Ethan's eyes, the weight of his actions finally catching up to him. "What do you want from me?" he asked sullenly. "Like I said, for you to disappear," Ethan stated. "You will not contact Sarah. You will not contact Lily. You will leave Boston and not return. In exchange, I won't pursue legal action against you. And if I refuse," Ethan's expression hardened, "then I will use every resource at my disposal to ensure you face the full consequences of your actions. Legally, financially, publicly. By the time I'm done, you won't be able to get a job or an apartment anywhere in this country." The threat hung in the air between them. Mark looked around the apartment as if searching for an escape route or a counter-argument. Finding neither, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "I need money to relocate," he said finally, a last attempt at exploitation. "I thought you might say that," Ethan replied, unsurprised. He reached into his jacket and withdrew an envelope. "This is enough for a one-way ticket out of Boston and 3 months' rent somewhere cheap. It's more than you deserve." Mark took the envelope, his hand shaking. "Slightly. Sarah won't believe you, you know. She trusts me. We're family." "We'll see," Ethan said simply. "Now pack whatever belongs to you and go. You have 30 minutes before I call the police to report a trespasser." As Mark grudgingly collected his belongings from around the apartment, Ethan maintained his vigilant position. He felt no satisfaction in the man's defeat, only a cold determination to protect what remained of his family. When Mark finally left, casting one last resentful glance over his shoulder, Ethan locked the door behind him and let out a long breath. The confrontation had gone as planned, but he harbored no illusions that it would be the end of their troubles. Men like Mark didn't simply vanish. He'd need to remain vigilant, perhaps higher security for Sarah and Lily, until he was certain the threat had truly passed. Looking around the apartment with fresh eyes, Ethan made a decision. This place, with its memories of Mark's influence and Sarah's struggles, was no place for his daughter to continue living. It was time for a fresh start for all of them. He called Jessica, his assistant. "I need you to find a 3-bedroom apartment or townhouse in a good school district," he instructed. "Something comfortable but not ostentatious, and I'll need it ready within the week." "Of course, Mr. Reed," Jessica replied, her voice betraying no surprise at the unusual request. "Any particular neighborhoods you'd prefer?" Ethan considered. "Brookline or Newton, somewhere with good public schools." "And Jessica, I'll need some time off. Clear my schedule for the next 2 weeks, minimum. Delegate what you can, postpone what you can't." "Sir, the quarterly review is next week, and the board will have to understand that family comes first," Ethan finished firmly. "This is non-negotiable, Jessica." After ending the call, Ethan began methodically exploring the apartment, looking for anything that might help him understand the years he had missed. In Sarah's bedroom, he found a small wooden box tucked in the back of her closet. Inside were photos, dozens of them, chronicling Lily's growth from infancy to the present. School portraits, birthday celebrations, quiet moments of mother and daughter together. And buried beneath these, a single photo of himself and Sarah, taken during a weekend trip to Cape Cod the summer before she disappeared. They were laughing, his arm around her shoulders, both of them young and blissfully unaware of the separation that awaited them. The discovery sent a pang through Ethan's chest. She had kept this one memento of their time together, hidden away, like a secret treasure. Despite everything Mark had done to convince her of Ethan's rejection, some part of Sarah had held on to this fragment of their past. His phone rang, breaking the moment of reflection. It was the hospital. "Mr. Reed, this is Dr. Patel. I wanted to update you on Ms. Connor's condition." "Is everything all right?" Ethan asked, immediately alert. "Yes, her condition is stabilizing nicely. The immunosuppressant therapy is working. Better than expected. However, she'll need ongoing treatment and monitoring. I understand you're covering her medical expenses." "That's correct," Ethan confirmed. "Whatever she needs." "In that case, I'd like to discuss a more comprehensive treatment plan. With proper care, her condition is manageable, but it will require significant lifestyle changes and regular medical supervision." "I understand. When do you think she might be discharged?" "Possibly by the end of the week, if her progress continues at this rate, but she'll need support at home. Her condition causes fatigue, and the medications have side effects she'll need to manage." "She'll have all the support she needs," Ethan assured the doctor. "I'll make sure of it." After ending the call, Ethan sat on the edge of Sarah's bed, the box of photos still open beside him. The path forward was becoming clearer, but it would require delicate navigation. Sarah was fiercely independent. She wouldn't easily accept his help, especially financial help. And Lily, perceptive as she was, would have questions about this sudden change in their circumstances. Then there was the matter of telling Lily the truth about her parentage. Sarah had asked for time, but Ethan felt each passing day as a precious opportunity lost. Yet he understood the wisdom in approaching this carefully. Lily's world had already been upended by her mother's illness. Discovering Ethan was her father would be another seismic shift. He returned to Lily's room, drawn to the evidence of her interests and personality. A telescope stood by the window, inexpensive, but well used. A bulletin board displayed science fair ribbons, a perfect spelling test, and a hand-drawn family tree that showed only Sarah, Mark, and Lily, with empty branches extending upward where grandparents and a father should have been, the Phi. Sight strengthened Ethan's resolve. Soon those branches would be filled. Lily would know her full heritage, not just the Reed name and fortune, but the grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins who had been kept from her. She would never again have to create imaginary stories about her father or face bullies who mocked her for his absence. As he prepared to return to the hospital, Ethan carefully packed a bag with clothes and personal items for Sarah and Lily. In Lily's room, he noticed a battered stuffed elephant on her bed, clearly a well-loved companion. He added it to the bag, imagining the comfort it might bring her in the unfamiliar hospital environment. The simple act, this small parental gesture, brought an unexpected lump to his throat. It was the first of countless such moments he had missed, packing lunches, bandaging scraped knees, checking for monsters under the bed. 10 years of fatherhood, stolen from him by Mark's manipulation and Sarah's misguided protection. But not anymore. From this day forward, Ethan Reed would be the father Lily deserved, present, engaged, fiercely protective, and perhaps, if Sarah allowed it, they might even rebuild some version of the family that should have been theirs all along. With renewed determination, Ethan left the apartment, locking the door on the past and heading toward a future that, for the first time in over a decade, held real promise of happiness. At the hospital, he found Sarah sitting up in bed, looking through a magazine while Lily napped in a chair beside her, curled up awkwardly with her head on the edge of the mattress. The sight of them together, his daughter and her mother, filled Ethan with a complex mixture of emotions: love, regret, protectiveness, and tentative hope. Sarah looked up as he entered, her expression questioning. "Mark?" she asked softly, mindful of waking Lily. "He won't be bothering you anymore," Ethan replied, keeping his voice equally low. "I've made arrangements." Sarah's face showed a conflict of emotions, relief mingled with concern. "What did you do, Ethan?" "Nothing illegal," he assured her. "Just made it clear that his manipulation and control are over. I offered him money to relocate far from Boston, and he took it, just like that." Disbelief colored her voice. "He didn't have much choice," Ethan explained. "I made it clear the alternative was legal action. Fraud, forgery, financial exploitation. With my resources, he knew he couldn't win that fight." Sarah looked down at her sleeping daughter, gently stroking her hair. "I should have seen through his lies," she whispered, regret evident in her voice. "I should have tried harder to find you, to verify what he was telling me." "You trusted your brother," Ethan said gently, "and you were young, vulnerable, pregnant. Mark took advantage of that." "Still," Sarah insisted, "I robbed you of so much. Time with Lily, that's unforgivable." Ethan moved closer, sitting on the edge of the bed. "We can't change the past, Sarah, but we can shape the future. Starting now." She looked up at him, a question in her eyes. "I've found a new place for you and Lily," he continued. "A townhouse in Brookline, near excellent schools. There's room for both of you, plus a home office where you can work once you're feeling better." Sarah's expression shifted to alarm. "Ethan, I can't accept that. It's too much." "It's not charity," he countered firmly. "It's what I owe my daughter. A safe, comfortable home in a good neighborhood. What I owe you both after all the years I wasn't there to provide it." "But please, Sarah," Ethan interrupted gently, "let me do this, not just for Lily, but for you too. You've struggled alone for too long." Sarah fell silent, conflicting, emotions playing across her face. Finally she sighed. "You always were stubborn." "So were you," he reminded her with a small smile. "It's probably why Lily's so determined." At the sound of her name, Lily stirred, blinking sleepily as she lifted her head. "Mr. Reed," she murmured, then more alertly, "did you see Uncle Mark?" "I did," Ethan confirmed, choosing his words carefully. "He's going to be away for a while. He had to move for work." Lily's expression revealed more relief than disappointment. "So he won't be staying with us anymore?" "No, he won't," Sarah answered, exchanging a meaningful look with Ethan. "Good," Lily said simply. "He makes you sad." "Mom." Sarah's eyes filled with tears and she reached for her daughter's hand. "I'm sorry if that worried you, sweetheart." "It's okay," Lily assured her. "Mr. Reed will help us now, right?" The simple question hung in the air, loaded with meaning, beyond what Lily could know. Ethan felt a tightness in his chest as he looked at his daughter, so trusting, so intuitive, yet unaware of the true connection between them. "Yes," he promised, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll help you both for as long as you need me. Lily nodded, satisfied with his answer. "I knew you would," she said confidently. "I knew it when I saw you on the bus. That's why I had to warn you, because you were important." Her words sent a chill down Ethan's spine. How had she known? What mysterious connection had drawn her to him that day, compelling her to save him from disaster? Before he could pursue the question, Dr. Patel entered with Sarah's latest test results, and the moment passed. But as Ethan watched Lily listening intently to the doctor's explanation, asking surprisingly sophisticated questions about her mother's treatment, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something profound in their connection, something that transcended the mere biological fact of their relationship. Whatever it was, Ethan was certain of one thing. Finding Lily, finding his daughter, had saved him in ways far more significant than merely escaping a bus before it exploded. She had saved him from the emotional numbness that had encased his heart for 12 years, and for that he would be forever grateful. The Brookline townhouse Ethan had secured was a world away from Sarah and Lily's cramped apartment. Flooded with natural light, it featured 3 spacious bedrooms, a modern kitchen and a small backyard garden. Located on a tree-lined street within walking distance of an excellent public school, it represented everything Sarah had wanted for Lily but could never afford. Standing in the empty living room a week after her hospital discharge, Sarah gazed around with a mixture of appreciation and discomfort. "It's beautiful, Ethan, but it feels like someone else's life." Ethan, who had been supervising the movers bringing in their few possessions, came to stand beside her. "It's your life now," he said gently. "Yours and Lily's." Lily herself had no such reservations. Since arriving, she had been racing from room to room, marveling at features most children would take for granted: closets with built-in shelving, a bathroom with a soaking tub, windows that opened smoothly without sticking. "Mom!" she called, thundering down the stairs. "My room has a window seat. I can sit there and read and look at the stars at night." Sarah smiled, her reservations momentarily overshadowed by her daughter's joy. "That sounds perfect for you, sweetheart. And Mr. Reed says I can paint it any color I want," Lily continued excitedly. "Can I do blue like the sky during the day fading into night at the ceiling, with stars and constellations?" "That's quite an ambitious design," Sarah observed, raising an eyebrow at Ethan. "I know a painter who specializes in murals," he replied with a shrug. "I thought it might make the transition easier if Lily could personalize her space." Sarah's expression softened. For all his wealth and success, Ethan was trying so hard to connect with their daughter, to make this abrupt change in circumstances feel natural. "Blue sounds wonderful," she agreed, "but first we need to unpack the essentials." The next few hours were spent organizing their belongings, which looked almost lost in the spacious rooms. Ethan noted how few personal items they had: clothes that filled barely half the available closet space, a modest collection of books, kitchenware that consisted of just the basics. "We'll need to do some shopping," he commented as he helped Sarah arrange her meager book collection on the built-in shelves in the living room. "Ethan," she began, her tone cautioning. "Not for anything extravagant," he assured her. "Just the necessities. Kitchen supplies, linens, maybe a few pieces of furniture." Sarah sighed, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She still tired easily, a side effect of her condition and the medications. "I know you mean well, but this is already so much. I don't want Lily getting used to—" "To what?" Ethan prompted. "When she trailed off." "To a lifestyle we can't sustain," she finished. "You're being incredibly generous now, but what happens in a year? 5 years? I need to maintain some independence, some sense that we can manage if I disappear again," Ethan finished quietly. Sarah had the grace to look contrite. "That's not what I meant." "Yes, it was," he countered, but without anger. "And it's a fair concern. I disappeared once before, not by choice, but the effect was the same. You're protecting yourself and Lily from getting hurt. Again." She nodded, relieved he understood. "I need to find work once I'm stronger, something that accommodates my health issues but still provides some income." "Actually," Ethan said, "I have a proposal about that." He led her to the kitchen, where they could speak without Lily overhearing. You studied literature in college. You wanted to teach. Dreams from another lifetime, Sarah said wistfully. They don't have to be, Ethan insisted. The Reed Foundation funds educational initiatives across the city. One of our programs provides literacy support for underserved communities. We need someone to coordinate reading programs for children in several community centers. Sarah's eyes widened. Ethan, if this is just a way to give me money, it's not, he interrupted. The position is real, and you're qualified. The hours are flexible, which would accommodate your health needs and Lily's schedule. And yes, it pays well, with excellent benefits, but it's legitimate work, Sarah. Work that would make a difference. She was silent for a moment, considering. I'd need to finish my degree, she said finally. I was only a semester away when you left, Ethan finished. That can be arranged. Boston University has excellent part-time programs. Before Sarah could respond, Lily appeared in the doorway, clutching her treasured telescope. Where should I put this, she asked. Is it okay if I set it up by the window in my room? Of course, Sarah replied, but be careful with it near the movers. As Lily carefully carried the telescope back upstairs, Ethan found himself staring after her, still marveling at her existence. She's extraordinary, he said quietly. Yes, she is, Sarah agreed. And perceptive. She keeps asking questions about you, about why you're helping us. Ethan turned to her, his expression serious. We need to tell her, Sarah. Soon. She deserves to know the truth. Sarah nodded reluctantly. I know. I'm just afraid. What if she's angry with me for keeping you from her? What if she resents me? She won't, Ethan assured her. Lily adores you. Nothing could change that. The sound of the doorbell interrupted their conversation. Ethan went to answer, it returning moments later with a delivery man carrying a large box. What's this? Sarah asked as the man set the package on the kitchen counter. A housewarming gift, Ethan explained, signing the delivery slip. For Lily, actually. Once the delivery man had left, Ethan called upstairs. Lily, can you come down for a minute? There's something for you. Lily appeared almost instantly, as if she'd been waiting for a summons. For me? She asked, eyeing the large box with curiosity. Go ahead, Ethan encouraged. Open it. With careful precision that belied her excitement, Lily opened the box to reveal a high-quality telescope, far superior to her battered second-hand model. It's a Celestron Nexstar 8SE, Ethan explained, as Lily stared in amazement. It has computerized tracking so you can locate any constellation automatically, and there's a camera attachment so you can take photos of what you see. This is for me, Lily whispered, running her fingers reverently over the instrument. I noticed how much you love astronomy, Ethan said, suddenly uncertain. I thought maybe we could set it up together. There's a meteor shower next week that should be visible, even with city light pollution. Lily launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his waist in a spontaneous hug that caught him completely off guard. Thank you, she said, her voice muffled against his sweater. It's the most amazing thing ever. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, then carefully returned the embrace, his heart racing at this first physical contact with his daughter. Over Lily's head, his eyes met Sarah's, and he saw they were bright with unshed tears. You're welcome, he managed, his voice rougher than usual. Maybe tomorrow we can set it up properly. Lily pulled back, her face alight with excitement. Can we do it now, please? Ethan glanced at Sarah, who nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. Go ahead, she encouraged. I'll finish unpacking the kitchen. The next several hours passed in a blur of assembly instructions, technical adjustments, and Lily's infectious enthusiasm. Ethan discovered his daughter had an impressive knowledge of astronomy for her age, rattling off facts about distant galaxies and planetary atmospheres as they worked. How did you get so interested in space? He asked as they calibrated the telescope's tracking system. Lily shrugged. I saw a TV show about astronauts when I was little. Mom got me a book from the library, and then another, and then I just wanted to know everything. That's how I was with computers, Ethan told her. Once I started learning, I couldn't stop. I built my first computer when I was about your Age? Really? Lily looked up with interest. Could you teach me how to do that? I'd love to, Ethan replied, feeling a surge of paternal pride. We could start with some basic programming if you're interested. Python is a good language for beginners. Cool, Lily exclaimed. Then, more hesitantly, would Mom be okay with that? She always says we have to be careful with money, and computers are expensive. The innocent comment pierced Ethan's heart. I think we can work something out, he said gently, and your mom wants you to learn anything that interests you. As evening fell, they tested the telescope, focusing on the moon rising over the Boston skyline. Ethan showed Lily how to use the camera attachment, and her excitement at capturing her first lunar photograph was palpable. This is amazing, she breathed, staring at the detailed image on the small screen. Wait until I show this to Zach and... Emma at school, they'll never believe it. Speaking of school, Sarah said, appearing in the doorway. It's getting late and tomorrow's a school day. Lily groaned but didn't argue. Can we use the telescope again tomorrow night, Mr. Reed? Of course, he promised. And you can call me Ethan, remember? Lily nodded, but something in her expression suggested uncertainty about the familiarity. After she had gone to prepare for bed, Sarah joined Ethan by the telescope. You've made her very happy, she observed quietly. It's a start, Ethan replied. But a telescope doesn't make up for 10 years of absence. You can't blame yourself for that, Sarah insisted. You didn't know. But I should have, he countered. I should have searched harder, longer. I should have found you. Sarah was quiet for a moment. I've been thinking about what you said, about telling Lily the truth. You're right, it needs to happen soon. Relief washed over Ethan. When? This weekend, Sarah decided. Give her a few days to settle into the new house, the new routine. Then we'll sit down together and explain everything. Ethan nodded, both eager and apprehensive about the conversation to come. Would Lily be shocked, angry? Would she reject him, or embrace the truth of their connection? She already likes you, Sarah offered, as if reading his thoughts. That's more than many parents get when meeting their children for the first time. The comment, intended as reassurance, only highlighted the strangeness of their situation. What kind of father meets his daughter for the first time when she's almost 11? What kind of relationship could they build with so much lost time? Between them? The questions lingered as Ethan prepared to leave for the night. He had arranged for a car to take him back to his penthouse, though part of him wished he could stay in this new home with Sarah and Lily. But that would be rushing things, complicating an already complex situation. For now, he would content himself with daily visits, with building a foundation of trust and familiarity. As he waited for his car, Lily appeared in her pajamas, clutching a book. Mom says I can read for 20 minutes before lights out, she explained. But I wanted to say good night first. Good night, Lily, Ethan replied, touched by the gesture. Thank you for letting me help with your telescope. Thank you for buying it for me, she countered. Then, with characteristic directness, are you coming back tomorrow? If that's okay with you and your mom. Lily nodded decisively. It's okay, you make things better. The simple statement, delivered with a child's honesty, caught Ethan off guard. How do you mean? Mom smiles more when you're here, Lily explained. And you know about cool stuff like telescopes and computers, and you're not scary like Uncle Mark. Ethan crouched down to her level, choosing his words carefully. I want you to know that you and your mum are very important to me. I'm going to be around a lot from now on, if that's all right with you. Lily studied him with those perceptive eyes that seemed to see right through him. So I'd like that, she said finally, and I think Mom would too, even though she tries to act all independent. The insight, so mature for her age, made Ethan smile. Your mom is a very strong person. I know, Lily agreed. But everyone needs help sometimes, that's what she always tells me. She's right about that, Ethan acknowledged. Wisdom from Sarah Connor. Lily yawned, the excitement of the day finally catching up with her. Good night, Mr. Reed, I mean Ethan. Good night, Lily, he replied softly. Sweet dreams. As his car arrived and he prepared to leave, Sarah appeared in the doorway. She insisted on saying good night, she explained. She's never this comfortable with new people. It usually takes months for her to warm up to someone." "Maybe it's not as new as it seems," Ethan suggested. "Maybe on some level she senses our connection." Sarah didn't dismiss the possibility. She's always been intuitive, almost eerily so sometimes. "Like knowing to warn everyone off that bus," Ethan remarked. "Yes," Sarah agreed, a shadow crossing her face. "That wasn't the first time either. She's had premonitions before, feelings about places or situations that turn out to be accurate. I never knew what to make of it." Ethan thought of his own childhood intuitions, dismissed and eventually suppressed. "It runs in the family," he said quietly. "I had similar experiences as a child, though I learned to ignore them." The revelation seemed to both surprise and reassure Sarah. "So it's not just her imagination?" "No," Ethan confirmed. "It's a gift, Sarah, one we should encourage rather than dismiss." She nodded thoughtfully. "Well, it certainly saved your life and led me back to both of you," Ethan added, "for which I'll always be grateful." Their eyes met, and for a moment Ethan felt a flicker of the connection they had once shared, that effortless understanding, the sense that no words were necessary. Then Sarah stepped back, breaking the moment. "Good night, Ethan," she said, softly. "Thank you for everything today." "Good night, Sarah," he replied. "I'll see you both tomorrow." As his car pulled away from the townhouse, Ethan felt an unfamiliar sensation, a lightness in his chest, a sense of anticipation rather than the usual emptiness that accompanied his return to his solitary penthouse. For the first time in 12 years, he had something to look forward to beyond work, beyond success, beyond acquisition. He had found his family, and though the road ahead would not be easy, the mere fact of their existence in his life again filled him with a hope he had long forgotten was possible. Back at his penthouse, Ethan found himself unable to settle into his usual evening routine. The space that had once seemed elegant and sophisticated now felt sterile and empty compared to the warmth of the townhouse with Sarah and Lily. Even with their modest possessions, they had immediately transformed that space into a home. He wandered to his home office, where a stack of reports awaited his attention. But instead of diving into work as he normally would, Ethan found himself opening his laptop and searching for information on parenting pre-teen girls. What were the typical challenges? What interest did girls Lily's age usually have? How could he support her development without overstepping or appearing to buy her affection? The questions multiplied as he read, each article and resource revealing how much he had to learn, how far behind he was in understanding his own child. Yet alongside the anxiety was excitement, the chance to know this remarkable person, to play a role in her life going forward. His phone chimed with a text message from Sarah. "Lily wants to know if you can come for dinner tomorrow. She wants to show you her science project. 6 p.m.? Ethan smiled as he typed his reply. "Wouldn't miss it. Need me to bring anything?" The response came quickly. "Just yourself, and maybe some patience for a very detailed explanation of photosynthesis." He chuckled, already looking forward to Lily's enthusiastic teaching. "Consider me your captive audience. See you both tomorrow." Setting aside his phone, Ethan felt a profound shift in his priorities. The board meeting he had been preparing, for the acquisition deal that had consumed his attention for months, the competitive analysis of market trends, all of it seemed distant and unimportant compared to a dinner invitation and a child's science project. Tomorrow, he would still be Ethan Reed, CEO of Reed Innovations. He would still make decisions affecting hundreds of employees, still manage millions in assets, still navigate the complex world of tech entrepreneurship. But more importantly, far more importantly, he would be Lily's father. Not yet in name, perhaps, but in his heart and actions. And somehow that role seemed infinitely more significant than any title he had ever held. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear, sunlight streaming through the windows of the Brookline townhouse. Ethan arrived early, carrying pastries from a local bakery and a carefully wrapped package tucked under his arm. The past few days had settled into a comfortable routine. Dinner with Sarah and Lily each evening, helping with homework, planning the weekend's activities. To an outside observer, they might have appeared to be any normal family, except they weren't, not yet. Today was the day they had agreed to tell Lily the truth. Sarah opened the door before he could knock, her expression a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. "She's still asleep," she said by way of greeting, late-night stargazing. Ethan smiled, remembering how Lily had tracked a satellite crossing the night sky, her excitement palpable as she recorded its path. "I brought breakfast," he said, holding up the bag of pastries. "And something else." Sarah eyed the wrapped package as she led him to the kitchen. "Another gift?" "Ethan, you don't need to keep buying things." "It's not what you think," he assured her, setting the package on the counter. "It's something I've been working on for today." Understanding dawned in Sarah's eyes. "For the conversation?" "Yes," Ethan confirmed. "I thought it might help make things more tangible for her." They worked together preparing breakfast, Sarah brewing coffee while Ethan set the table, moving around each other with growing familiarity. In these quiet moments, Ethan could almost imagine they were recapturing something of their past connection, building something new from the ashes of what had been lost. "Are you nervous?" Sarah asked softly, passing him a mug of coffee. "Terrified," Ethan admitted. "What if she's angry? What if she feels betrayed? What if she doesn't want me to be her father?" Sarah placed a hand on his arm, the gesture surprisingly intimate after years of separation. "She already cares about you, Ethan. The rest we'll figure out together." The sound of footsteps on the stairs announced Lily's approach. She appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas, hair tousled from sleep. "I smelled cinnamon rolls," she explained, eyeing the bakery bag hopefully. "Good nose," Ethan commented, pulling out a chair for her. "So I got your favorite." Lily beamed as she took her seat. "You remembered." The simple pleasure in her voice sent a wave of warmth through Ethan. Yes, he had remembered. Just as he'd catalogued every preference, every interest, every mannerism, she had revealed over the past 2 weeks. He was building a mental inventory of his daughter, trying to compress 10 years of knowledge into days and weeks. Breakfast passed with easy conversation, Lily's plans for her science project, Sarah's progress with her online course registration, Ethan's story about his first computer programming competition. It felt natural, comfortable, as if they had been sharing meals like this for years rather than days. As they finished eating, Sarah caught Ethan's eye, a silent question passing between them. He nodded slightly. It was time. "Lily," Sarah began, her voice gentle but serious. "After we clean up, there's something important Ethan and I would like to talk to you about." Lily looked between them, instantly alert to the shift in tone. "Am I in trouble?" "No, sweetheart, not at all," Sarah assured her quickly. "It's just something we should have told you before now." Lily's perceptive gaze moved from her mother to Ethan and back again. "Is it about why Mr. Reed, Ethan, is helping us so much?" Sarah and Ethan exchanged surprised glances. "Yes, actually," Sarah admitted. "How did you guess?" Lily shrugged, but her expression remained serious. "I'm not a little kid, Mom. I know grown-ups don't just buy telescopes and townhouses for people they barely know." The matter-of-fact assessment, so mature yet so innocently delivered, left both adults momentarily speechless. Ethan recovered. First, a small smile playing at his lips. "You're right," he acknowledged. "There is a reason, a very important one." They moved to the living room, where family photos had begun to appear on the walls and shelves. Sarah's careful curation of Lily's childhood, now displayed in their new home. Lily sat between them on the sofa, suddenly appearing smaller, more vulnerable. "Sweetheart," Sarah began, taking Lily's hand in hers, "you know how you've sometimes asked me about your father, and I've told you that he was someone I cared about very much, but that he couldn't be part of our lives." Lily nodded solemnly. "You said he wasn't a bad person, just that things were complicated." "That's right," Sarah continued. "What I didn't tell you, what I should have told you, is that your father didn't know about you. He didn't know I was pregnant when we lost touch with each other." Lily's brow furrowed in confusion. "You didn't tell him about me?" Sarah took a deep breath. "I tried to, sweetheart. But there were misunderstandings, people who interfered. I thought your father didn't want to know us, but I was wrong. He never got my messages." "So he didn't know I existed?" Lily asked, her voice small. "All this time?" "No," Ethan interjected gently. "He didn't. Not until very recently." Lily looked up at him, and Ethan could see the moment understanding began to dawn in her eyes, those eyes so like his own. "Are you—" she began, then faltered. "Yes, Lily," Ethan confirmed, his heart pounding. "I'm your father." Silence fell over the room as Lily processed this revelation. Her gaze moved from Ethan to Sarah, searching for confirmation. "It's true, sweetheart," Sarah said softly. "Ethan is your dad." Lily sat very still, her expression unreadable. Then, with characteristic directness, she asked, "How do you know for sure?" Despite the tension of the moment, Ethan couldn't suppress a smile at her practical question. "Well, there's the timing. Your mom and I were together until shortly before you were born. There's the resemblance. We have the same eyes, the same intuition you mentioned. And if you want scientific proof, we could do a DNA test, though I'm already certain of the result." Lily seemed to consider this information carefully. "So when I saw you on the bus, when I knew something bad was going to happen, I was saving my own dad without knowing it?" "Yes," Ethan confirmed, marveling again at the strange synchronicity of their reunion. "And then, when your mom needed help, I found you again," Lily finished, a note of wonder in her voice. Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand. "Are you okay, sweetheart? I know this is a lot to take in." Lily was quiet for a long moment. "I always wondered what he was like," she said finally, not looking at either of them. "My real dad, I used to make up stories about him." "What kind of stories?" Ethan asked gently. "That he was a scientist or an explorer, someone smart who discovered things." She glanced up at him. "I guess I wasn't too far off." Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. "I would have been there, Lily. For every moment, your birth, your first steps, your first day of school, all of it if I had known." "Mom didn't keep me from you on purpose," Lily said with unexpected fierceness. "Uncle Mark tricked her. She didn't know." "I know that now," Ethan assured her quickly. "I don't blame your mom at all. We were both deceived." Lily nodded, processing this. "So what happens now?" she asked, the practical question of a child seeking security in a shifting reality. "That's partly up to you," Sarah said gently. "Ethan wants to be part of our lives, part of your life, as your father. But we know this is a big change, and we want you to feel comfortable with whatever comes next." Lily looked at Ethan thoughtfully. "Would I call you Dad instead of Ethan?" The question, so simple yet so profound, caught Ethan off guard. "I'd be honored if you did," he said honestly, "but only when you're ready. There's no rush." "And would?" "We keep living here, the three of us." Sarah and Ethan exchanged glances. They hadn't discussed living arrangements beyond the immediate future. "For now, you and your mom will stay here," Ethan explained. "I'll visit often, as much as you both want me to. As for the future, we'll figure that out together as a family." The word family seemed to resonate with Lily. "So you're not going to disappear again?" "Never," Ethan promised fervently. "I've missed too much of your life already." "I won't miss another day if I can help it." Lily studied him for a long moment, her expression serious beyond her years. Then, with the resilience of childhood, she seemed to accept this new reality. "Do I have grandparents on your side?" "My parents are both still living," Ethan confirmed. "They're in their 70s now, retired in Florida. They don't know about you yet, but they'll be thrilled when I tell them. You also have an aunt, my sister Catherine, and 2 cousins about your age." Lily's eyes widened. "I have cousins." "Emma and Jack," Ethan told her. "They live in Connecticut. Emma's 12 and Jack's 9. "Wow," Lily breathed, clearly trying to process this sudden expansion of her family tree. "That's a lot of people." "We don't have to meet everyone right away," Sarah assured her. "We can take it slow, start with just getting to know Ethan." "Better," Lily nodded, then turned back to Ethan with another direct question. Did you love my mum when I was born? The question hung in the air, laden with meaning. Ethan met Sarah's eyes briefly before turning back to Lily. Yes, he said simply. Very much. And now, Lily pressed, with a child's unerring instinct, for the heart of the matter. Ethan hesitated, caught off guard by the question. It's complicated, he began carefully. Your mum and I have been apart for a long time. We're different people now. But we both love you, and we're going to work together to be the best parents we can be. Lily seemed to accept this answer, though Ethan suspected she'd return to the question again. Children her age often harbored fantasies of their parents, reuniting, and he didn't want to encourage false hopes while they were all still adjusting to their new reality. I brought something for you, he said, retrieving the wrapped package from the kitchen. It might help make some of this more concrete. Lily accepted the package, unwrapping it carefully to reveal a leather-bound album. Opening it, she found a family tree, meticulously created with photographs and names extending back several generations on the Reed side. These are all my relatives, she asked, running, her fingers over the images. Yes, Ethan confirmed. Your grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, your heritage. Lily studied the pages with fascination, pausing at a photo of Ethan as a child. You looked like me, she observed. Same smile. I thought so too, Ethan agreed, moving closer to point out other similarities. And see this woman? Your great-grandmother Elizabeth? She was a scientist, one of the first women to graduate from MIT with a degree in physics. Maybe that's where your love of science comes from. They spent the next hour exploring the album together, Ethan sharing stories about family members, answering Lily's countless questions about her relatives. Sarah watched them, a bittersweet smile playing at her lips as she witnessed this first real bonding between father and daughter. There's something else, Ethan said, turning to the final pages of the album. Space for new memories. Photos we'll take together, family moments we'll share from now on. Lily traced the blank pages, then looked up at him with sudden resolution. Can we take one now? The three of us? For the first page? That's a wonderful idea, Sarah agreed, reaching for her phone. They positioned themselves on the sofa, Lily between them, and Sarah held the phone out to capture the moment. It wasn't a perfect photo. Ethan looked slightly nervous. Sarah's smile held traces of lingering sadness, and Lily's expression was still processing all she had learned. But it was honest, authentic, the first image of their newly discovered family. Now we need to do something together, Lily declared after the photo was taken. Something special. What did you have in mind? Ethan asked. Lily thought for a moment, then her face lit up. I know. Mom said there's an old bike in the shed out back. Could we fix it up? I've always wanted to learn to ride, but we never had room before. Sarah and Ethan exchanged surprised glances. The request was so normal, so wonderfully ordinary, after the emotional weight of their conversation. I think that sounds perfect, Ethan agreed. I used to be pretty good at fixing bikes when I was younger. The rest of the day unfolded with unexpected ease. They discovered an old Schwinn in the garden shed, rusty but salvageable. Ethan drove to a nearby hardware store for supplies, and they spent the afternoon sanding, oiling, and replacing worn parts. Lily proved to be an adept assistant, handing tools and asking thoughtful questions about how bicycles worked. By late afternoon, the bike gleamed in the sunlight, its red frame, freshly painted, new tires ready for their first ride. They carried it to the small park at the end of the street, where a smooth pathway offered the perfect learning space. Ready? Ethan asked, holding the back of the seat as Lily balanced nervously on the pedals. I think so, she replied, gripping the handlebars tightly. I'll hold on until you get your balance, he promised. Just start pedaling and I'll run alongside you. Sarah watched from a nearby bench as Ethan jogged beside the wobbling bicycle, his hand steady on the seat as Lily gained confidence. After several tentative starts and stops, she began to find her rhythm, pedaling more steadily as Ethan continued to support her. You're doing great, he encouraged. Keep going. Don't let go. Lily called back, concentration etched on her face. I won't until you're ready, he assured her. They made several circuits of the path, Lily growing more confident with each round. On the fourth pass, she called out, "I think I can do it now." "Are you sure?" Ethan asked, still holding the seat. "Yes," she replied decisively. "Let go." Carefully, Ethan released his grip, continuing to run alongside as Lily wobbled momentarily, then found her balance. She pedaled forward, a little unsteady, but unmistakably riding on her own. "You're doing it," Ethan called, slowing his pace as Lily pulled ahead. "I'm doing it," she echoed, her voice jubilant. "Mom, look, I'm riding by myself." Sarah stood, applauding as Lily made her first solo circuit of the path. "Wonderful, sweetheart." As Lily pedaled past them again, her face alight with triumph, she called out words that Ethan would remember for the rest of his life. "Now nobody can stop me." The simple declaration, born of a child's joy and newfound independence, struck Ethan as profoundly symbolic. After years of being held back by deception and separation, their family was finally moving forward, finding its balance, learning to navigate a new path together. Later that evening, as they shared pizza in the townhouse living room, Lily's excited chatter about her cycling achievement gradually gave way to more thoughtful questions about her newly discovered father. "Were you scared today?" she asked suddenly, fixing Ethan with that direct gaze. "When you told me you were my dad?" "Terrified," Ethan admitted honestly. "It was the most important conversation of my life, and I had no idea how you'd react." Lily considered this. "I think I kind of knew already," she said after a moment. "Not exactly, but something felt right about you, different from other grown-ups." "That intuition again," Sarah remarked softly. "Like when I knew about the bus," Lily agreed. "Or when I found you to help Mom." She turned to Ethan. "Do you think it's because we're related? That I could sense it somehow?" "I think there are connections between people that science hasn't fully explained yet," Ethan replied carefully. "Especially between parents and children." Lily nodded, satisfied with this answer. "I'm glad I found you," she said simply. "Even if I didn't know I was looking." The word sent a wave of emotion through Ethan. "I'm glad too," he managed, his voice rough with feeling. "More than I can say." As the evening wound down and Lily's eyelids began to droop, Sarah announced it was bedtime. Lily protested half-heartedly, then asked, "Will you both tuck me in?" The simple request, so normal for most families, yet so new for them, caught both Sarah and Ethan off guard. "Of course," Sarah replied, recovering first. In Lily's room, now adorned with the promised celestial mural and the new telescope positioned by the window, Ethan found himself participating in bedtime rituals he had missed for a decade, straightening covers, checking that the nightlight was on, listening as Sarah read a chapter from the current bedtime book. When the story was finished, Lily looked up at them both, her expression serious in the soft glow of her bedside lamp. "I was thinking," she began hesitantly, "would it be okay if I called you Dad? Not all the time yet, maybe, but sometimes when it feels right?" Ethan felt his throat constrict with emotion. "I'd like that very much," he managed. "Okay," Lily said, as if settling an important matter. "Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad." The word spoken for the first time hung in the air between them, a bridge between what was lost and what might yet be built. "Good night, Lily," Ethan replied softly, leaning down to kiss her forehead. "Sweet dreams." Later, after Lily had fallen asleep, Ethan and Sarah sat in the kitchen, cups of tea growing cold between them as they processed the day's events. "She took it better than I expected," Sarah admitted. "She's always been resilient, but this was a lot to absorb." "She's extraordinary," Ethan replied, "though I'm not sure it's fully sunk in yet. There may be questions, maybe even anger, as she processes everything." "We'll handle it together," Sarah assured him, "day by day." Ethan nodded, then hesitated before voicing the question that had been on his mind. "What about us, Sarah? Where do we go from here?" Sarah looked down at her tea, choosing her words carefully. "I don't know, Ethan. There's so much history between us, good and bad, so much lost time, and we're different people now." "Yes, we are," he acknowledged, "but I still care about you. That never changed." "I care about you too," she admitted softly. "But right now, Lily has to be our priority. Building her relationship with you, helping her understand her new family situation, that comes first." "Of course," Ethan agreed. "I just want you to... I know that I'm open to possibilities, whatever form they might take." Sarah met his gaze, and in her eyes he saw not rejection, but cautious hope. "So am I," she said finally. "But let's take it slow, one day at a time." "One day at a time," Ethan echoed, reaching across the table to take her hand. It wasn't a declaration of love regained or a promise of romance rekindled. It was something more fundamental, a commitment to move forward together, to build something new from the fragments of what had been broken. As he prepared to leave that night, Ethan paused at Lily's doorway, watching his daughter sleep peacefully. In the soft moonlight streaming through her window, he could see traces of both himself and Sarah in her features, the physical embodiment of what they had once meant to each other and what they might yet become. The path ahead would not be simple or straightforward. There would be challenges, explaining Lily's parentage to friends and family, integrating Ethan into school events and daily routines, navigating the complex dynamics of co-parenting, and perhaps, eventually, redefining his relationship with Sarah. But for the first time in 12 years, Ethan felt truly whole. The emptiness that had driven him to build his business empire, to accumulate wealth and influence, had been filled by something far more valuable: the love of a daughter he hadn't known existed, and the possibility of rebuilding a family he had thought lost forever. As he gently closed Lily's door, Ethan made a silent promise, not just to be present for the years ahead, but to honor the years that had been taken from them, by remembering that each day with his daughter was a gift he had almost missed receiving. And in that moment, he understood what Lily had meant in the park, her voice ringing with triumph as she pedaled forward on her own. "Now nobody can stop me." Nobody could stop them now, not Mark with his manipulations, not misunderstandings or false assumptions, not the weight of lost years or missed opportunities. They were moving forward together, finding their balance, creating a new story that belonged to all three of them. A family rediscovered and renewed, finally on the path they should have traveled all along.